Murphy Austin Adams Schoenfeld LLP, focusing on business law and commercial litigation, is proud to support Rob on the Road Region Rising. More information available at murphyaustin.com.
Coming up, did you know a Sacramento County court rules with compassion, courage, and second chances? This is Superior Court Judge Lawrence Brown. He runs mental health court with hundreds of active cases. His work has garnered statewide praise and even helped bring his own family closer together.
And now, Rob on the Road, exploring Northern California.
Joining me now from Sacramento is Judge Lawrence Brown. It is so good to see you, Judge Brown. We've been talking about this for years, and it happened.
Rob, thank you very much. And let's get this out of the way first. Please call me Larry.
Okay, I'll try my hardest. But Judge Brown, it's great to see you. And I'm so glad you're here, Larry. Thank you. I want to talk to you right off the bat. This is such a powerful program that you have. And thank you for allowing me to sit in last week and watch how this works. I'm blown away.
Well, thank you for taking the time to do it, Rob.
This is an entire group of people they're all there to help the person in need. And let's talk about, first of all, tell me what mental health court exactly is.
Well, it's essentially, we'll call it a diversionary court to take it out of a traditional criminal track. And it's designed to get the person out of jail and to have them on probation to our court, and to then have the focus be on their treatment. And so, frankly, by the time a person completes my court, I will barely remember what got them into the court as compared to getting to know who they are, which is very different than a traditional criminal court.
I noticed when we were in session, of course, we were all on Zoom or web-based platforms because of COVID, but there were so many people involved in each case.
A good number. We've got everything from, and it's a tremendous team, and I'm honored to be part of our team. We have county behavioral health. We have all the agencies that provide community-based services for this population. We have county alcohol and drug. Then, of course, we have the probation department, the district attorney's office, the public defender's office, everyone working in concert to kind of, advance this mission of treatment for the persons in the court, while, of course, holding them accountable.
And so it appears to me that when someone is in the process of the court program, is it a year?
It's a year minimum before they're eligible to graduate. But some can be in our court for a year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years. We don't throw in the towel easily.
And along the way, they're checking in with their various members of their support group, if you will, be it the counselors, the probation officers, and then they give updates to verify how the person is doing.
That's exactly it. So we end up having a team meeting. They're called multidisciplinary team meetings the week in advance, and we get a rundown from each of their treatment providers as to how's the person doing. Are they taking their medication? Are they going to the doctor's appointments? Are they obeying restraining orders? Whatever might be part of their probation grant. And then we're determining really as a team the tone that we will take with that person when they appear on my calendar on that given date.
That's already preset, the tone?
It is. Essentially, I'm channeling what the sort of consensus was among the team. That's why these are called collaborative courts or collaborative justice courts, which also include things like drug court, veterans court. And the concept is that whatever advocacy goes on, let's say between your district attorney and your public defender, that happens in the team meeting that we have before I would ever take the bench for the case itself. so that by the time I'm on the bench, they'll know kind of roughly what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it. And really, it's about whether we are encouraging, applauding what the person's been doing, or giving a reminder that they need to do better, or having to be kind of a stern parent if that's warranted. But I'm trying to channel what the consensus was.
That's so interesting. I did not know that until you just said that, but I do remember watching that entire day or that afternoon and wondering how in the world you knew what tone to take with each person that came to you. And it's because you had already gotten all the information from everyone involved and you guys planned it.
That's exactly it. And the other thing I've learned to do over time, Rob, is that as I learn personal information about a person, the name of their cat, do they have children, what are their hobbies? I have a court staff member who keeps notes for me as I learn those little nuggets of information. Those then show up on my particular calendar, so I can glance down and then have something personal with which to interact with that person. Because you can only talk so much about, are you taking your medication, versus how's Fluffy, and then, oh boy, people want to talk about their pets. So I found that to really bear a lot of fruit.
I have to tell you, I'm so glad that when I was in the session with you that you turned the camera off that I was on, because half the time I was crying. It was that moving, because for many of the people that were there, I felt like you were their last and maybe first hope.
Thank you for saying that. It almost makes me a little choked up, you saying it. You probably could see, I feel like it's a huge privilege that I get to perform this role for our court, for our community. And to know that I'm having some, I hope, positive impact on the lives of some of our most vulnerable people. When people talk about, finding meaningful work to do in one's life as part of overall wellness, I sort of have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the type of work that I get to do.
You were on, if I'm not mistaken, on rotation on the bench from as it goes. And after this specific court, you asked to be permanently assigned to this court. And I believe, was that with Governor Schwarzenegger? Were you appointed for that with Governor Schwarzenegger?
So I was appointed by Governor Schwarzenegger to our court in 2010. And then, it was really by serendipity that I inherited the mental health court in 2013. So I'm entering my 9th year. It was an ancillary assignment in a court that I had been assigned to. And once I found what a good fit it seemed to be, and that was the feedback I was getting from people I respected greatly, I then asked my presiding judge if I could adopt the court. So even I went back to doing jury trials, my juries would not be in session on the day or days that I had mental health court, so I could continue to have the interaction with the participants each week.
I saw several of the participants come on as their time came up, and they talked with you respectfully like a friend. And I could see that you had developed a rapport along the way. It was graduation for someone when I was with you last week. And the joy that this person felt to have gotten through this stage of life is huge. It was as if he had been given a new life.
In many respects, he has been. The hope and the goal is that by the time a person graduates the court, they'll develop such better insights into their triggers, what risks they run, the importance of staying on their treatment regimen, taking their medication, that the odds are so much greater of them not getting in trouble again going forward. And that, gives us a lot of confidence that it's worth the effort.
You know, the statistics back up what you're saying. A new report out says that almost 73% of people that come through your court are successful graduates of the program.
Mm-hmm.
That's big.
It is, and it's, reflects, again, it's all the work by the team to make that happen, and then the extraordinary work by the participants themselves, oftentimes with supportive family members who are very engaged and supportive of, whether it's their offspring, their sibling, their spouse, what have you, successfully navigating our court.
How does somebody get to be a participant in your court when something happens in life? How do they find themselves in front of you versus not?
Essentially, the credit would go to our public defenders most often, sometimes private counsel, that they will be made aware, or they'll learn very quickly, that their client, who's typically in custody at the jail court, has a serious mental illness. And that then gets a process going of looking at whether or not they might be eligible, suitable to join our court, or to be in misdemeanor diversion court with two of my respected colleagues. And so there's a process that goes on to screen the cases. If it looks as if the person potentially qualifies, then the district attorney also has to sign off and agree that the case should be accepted to the court, because it's a collaborative court. It's the defense and the prosecutor coming together to say, this is a good candidate. Then they come in front of me to be sentenced.
So this is kind of a hard question to ask, but I have to ask.
Sure.
It sounds like it takes someone getting in trouble to get some of the resources they need. And I say that with complete empathy.
And I don't think you're way off the mark in that. And I've had, countless discussions over the years with, families at different, community gatherings, just at wit's end as to wanting to be able to do something for a seriously mentally ill loved one, but not really having the tools to be able to do that. And, they will almost be crying out, does it require a person get arrested and maybe get to your court? And it's not as bleak as that, but at the same time, it's very difficult to compel someone to, for example, take medication if they don't want to take their medication.
We talked about family, very close to yours and to your own. And you are recently speaking publicly about this. So this is something that we had talked about quite a while back, and now yes, things have evolved and happened in your life, which is great, that allow you to successfully talk about this.
Yeah.
Tell me about your sister.
So my sister, Eileen, so I'm the fourth of five kids, and Eileen was my next oldest sibling. She's 5 years older than I am. And, now a good 40 years ago is when she had a major mental health break, schizophrenia. And, I was in my teens and, didn't really fully appreciate everything going on, other than it just seemed like overnight, suddenly it was no longer the same person. And she had to be hospitalized. And it's been a very serious mental illness that she's had over these many decades. She lives in Santa Rosa, where I grew up. And for anybody who has experienced this, it's a traumatic event for loved ones because the sense of loss. And then, frankly, I guess a good healthy dose of Catholic guilt of not being probably as involved in her life for a good number of years, leaving that to my parents, and particularly my mother, to sort of deal with all of that unpleasant type of stuff, so I can go on and live my fun life instead, right?
Well, you say that very hard on yourself, but I would also like to point out that had that not been the way, that this might not be your today.
Thank you. And I give a lot of thought to this, in terms of some reason why I ended up kind of doing what I'm doing. And, I didn't seek out the mental health court because of Eileen. I always say, would that be a nice story? In some ways, the trepidation I had was because of some of those dynamics I just described. But what I found was that once I started to do the court, I could relate so well with people because of my sister. I love my sister. And, I know that she's still there. She's just had been saddled with this, difficult thing throughout her entire adult life. But that I can sort of pay it forward. And I talk about her regularly in the court as someone who has lived a better life by the fact that she takes her medication. And, I see her now all the time. I saw her on Christmas. I took my son to go see her on Christmas. And, in many ways, this court has given me the courage to have a more, a closer relationship with my own sister, because I felt like if I can talk to 40 to 50 non-relative strangers each week on a court about mental illness, I think I can go see my sister.
Who would have ever thought that the trajectory of your career would marry with your personal life in such a way that is hard to question?
Yeah.
I'm happy for you. I really am. We're very blessed when our paths and our purposes intersect. And I think we're at a divine spot when that happens.
I agree with you that there's something that is bordering on spiritual when these type of things occur. And one of my, heroes when I was growing up was my uncle, who was a Catholic priest. He's deceased now, but he was a rock star to me when I would watch him do a sermon at his church and all this. And I, in many ways, have sort of felt like in this role, you're sort of serving as a minister in a way. I sometimes almost joke like, well, bring me your mentally ill, bring me your drug addicted, bring me your recently incarcerated. They're kind of the people I am spending most of my days dealing with in a very personal way. And if you had told me that in my 20 plus years as a local prosecutor, as a federal prosecutor, as head of the state district attorney organization, that this is how I'd be, spending this part of my career, I don't think I would have believed it.
What have you learned from the people that come into your courtroom who are struggling with mental illness? What have they taught you?
Humility.
How so?
Well, they share so openly about what they're dealing with and what they're trying to address and the like, that you can't help but feel humbled by having that type of personal connection. But also, I think it's taught me perspective, that we all have our daily challenges in life, and we can feel sorry for ourselves sometimes when things aren't going that great. And then I see folks who've been dealt a really difficult hand in life, and they're keeping up their spirits, and they are doing the hard work and under very difficult circumstances. I mean, some of them are homeless, yet they're still going to their doctor's appointment and they're still showing up on my court calendar. Many of them are living well below the poverty line and have immense, financial challenges, housing instability, but yet there they are doing what they're supposed to be doing, what they promised to do. and many times doing it with a great attitude. And so part of me feels like, well, Judge Brown, what are you complaining about, right? Buck up.
You know, I have to tell you, when I was in your court observing one of the graduates that day, I looked up, and it was a very publicized incident that got this young man into your courtroom. It was all over the news, and I never heard once that the person was suffering from mental illness. And I just want to encourage people to hold judgment for any reason of another person, because you never know what someone's going through during a time of crisis.
Most of the time, by the time they graduate, I don't remember the case that got them into my court.
That stuck with me when you said that.
It's all about who they are. And again, we're very careful as a community, and the district attorney is not going to let someone in that they don't think can ultimately perform in the court. I mean, public safety is a very important focus for our DA, Anne-Marie Schubert, in her office, as well it should be. But doesn't mean, though, that everybody then needs to stay behind bars. Once a person has been now back on their medication and are doing well again, having them continue to serve lengthy sentences in the jail is not really the most humane way of having a justice system. I mean, our sheriff does I think a very good job in terms of having mental health staff to tend to people, to be sure. And UC Davis assists with that endeavor. But a number of these folks are better to be back in the community, being supervised, being held accountable, because they didn't really know what they were doing. They weren't insane when they did it, the crime, but they were not of right mind.
Do they typically remember it?
I think so. And it may not be with the great clarity. And I will, when they're entering my court, we're doing a change of plea, and I bring up how important medication is. And they're in custody. I'll say, "Are you on your medication right now?" "Yes, Judge." And I'll say, "Let me take a guess. Were you not on your medication when you picked up this offense?" "No, Judge, I was not." And they know that it wasn't fully who they really are when they committed that offense. But I think they generally have an idea as to what they did, but the rationale for why they did it may no longer be clear in their head. Well over 3/4 of people who have a serious mental illness also have a substance use disorder or a drug addiction or alcoholism or a combination thereof. And probably what happened oftentimes was when they were quite young, in their early teens, their mental illness may not have been diagnosed yet, but they started to do something, some type of drug that pleased that brain. And that sets a lifetime of addictive behavior. And so to then have mental illness in that mix, it's a very complicated, treatment challenge. And we're so fortunate in this community that we have these dedicated professionals who work with this population day in and day out. I mean, they do the hard work. I always say I get the drive-by. They're coming to my court every so often, and I'm seeing them in this one setting. But the social worker, the case manager, who goes and picks them up every day or takes them to their appointments and all that, they're the heroes.
A lot of heroes have also come through your courtroom and graduated and your program. And I can only imagine the number of stories that you have in your head and in your heart forever. Do you run into people in public who you have graduated?
I have. And in fact, I just not too long ago, a young gentleman, I saw him near a Starbucks, and to be honest, I didn't recognize him. "Hey, Judge, hey, I graduated your court. Oh, good to see you." And he says, I'm still taking my medication. Is your sister? And the fact that he remembered that I would bring that up, the fact that that connected to him, and that he was, bringing that up right there on the street. But no, I've run into any number of people over time. And, it's funny, I think, for them to see me out of context. Sometimes it's odd for me to see them out of context. But it's always been a warm interaction when I have.
I absolutely love that. And I hope your sister knows that there are people who are doing the right steps for their lives because of her.
And she does. I tell her, I said, look, I brag about you in court, Eileen. I talk about the fact that you're taking your medication, how well you've been doing and all that as an example for other people. And I know that she's pleased that I do that.
Judge Lawrence Brown, it is so good to see you here today on Rob at Home. You are always welcome here. And thank you for sharing such a special story, not only about your courtroom, but about your family. And I appreciate all that you have shared.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Murphy, Austin, Adams, Schoenfeld, LLP, focusing on business law and commercial litigation, is proud to support Rob on the Road, Region Rising. More information available at murphyaustin.com.